Welcome to Avantgardist Leadership, a platform for global changemakers that shape our society in a positive manner for the benefit of all. My name is Lili Jassemi, and today we have as guest innovation consultant and one of the founding members of the Arts and Nature Social Club, Joerg GEIER. Today we will talk about the importance of having a positive vision, about curating eye-opening programs and building bridges. Welcome, Joerg. So you grew up in Germany, you studied here, and then you started a 15-year-long journey abroad. 2018, you moved back to Germany. Tell us a little bit more about this journey of yours.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. Very nice to have this conversation. So the 15 years have been quite mixed. I studied abroad, first in the UK, and then I lived in San Francisco. I studied there, and later, 10 years later, I moved back to work there. And for me, it has always been about kind of exploring boundaries, so to speak. I wasn't so happy in a rather narrow-minded environment that I had grown up in rural Heidelberg in the southwest of Germany. And eventually I decided to first work abroad and then study abroad. But it wasn't really planned. One thing happened after the other.
And what kind of positions did you have on your journey?
Well, I started off after my MBA in San Francisco. I came back and worked for about a year at a corporate finance consultancy, but I've always been quite impact driven, and so the impact dimension in terms of social or environmental impact I felt was missing. So, and then I had an opportunity to start working for the Club of Rome, an organization that I had been affiliated with previously due to their young think tank 30, a group of young people that looked at global issues from the perspective of the young generation. And then I became the Deputy Secretary General of the Club of Rome, and at the time under Prince Hassan of Jordan, the President of the Club of Rome, I worked there for 2.5, 3 years.
Mm-hmm. And what did you do actually for the University of Cambridge?
Yeah, Cambridge followed after. I had an interesting opportunity to run our custom program portfolio and be responsible for business development on a global basis. So we developed a whole range of leadership subjects, ranging from personal change to general leadership topics, on an individual level, on a global level. How can a global company do a good job when it comes to different kinds of ethical leadership topics? And it was a very interesting time since we rolled out programs almost on a global basis. We were present in the Middle East, in China, in India, and then in the UK as well. And that for me was a very eye-opening time and helped me understand other cultures as well.
And what do you do today?
Well, today I focus on the consulting side of things. I've been in the area of innovation and sustainability basically since I started working for the Club of Rome. On the side, I've been a climate mentor for different startups and different incubators. Maybe going a step back before coming to today. During my period in San Francisco, I did a range of things. I did research in the area of sustainable entrepreneurship. I worked for a university's acceleration program and helped develop a new program focused on impact investing. And impact investing really is an approach that you see more and more in today's financial markets as well. And then I worked also at an incubator called Los Angeles Clean Tech Incubator. And at the incubator, I was responsible for gathering global networks in the field of sustainability and connecting them to the Los Angeles and California clean tech ecosystem. And then fast forward, I stayed in the Bay Area for about 5 years. I moved back to Berlin in March 2018, and then I also started working for an impact-driven digital agency here in Berlin called Lucid. And later on, I decided to go independent, and since then I've been running different kinds of consulting projects. And as you hinted earlier in your introduction, I co-founded the Arts and Nature Social Club together with my colleague Johan, hailing from Lanzenau, and a bunch of other people.
That is pretty impressive, Jörg. You have driven us through your life journey, and we have been in different positions, different roles, and also in multicultural settings. However, the notion of impact is a recurring theme in your life and in your work, especially building bridges with a focus on entrepreneurship and innovation and sustainability. Could you please elaborate on these kind of roles, please?
Well, let's say I've always been driven by a sense of purpose and an impact. So not only, despite the fact that I studied business, I've always asked questions like, the impact on the environment and social impact. And I've been asking myself and wondering why that actually was. And it may go back as far as the Chernobyl disaster, which I experienced as a little boy, and it had a profound impact on me. And I wasn't allowed to play outside anymore. And
that was 1986, right?
That was 1986, that's right. And back then, something clicked. And as far as I remember, since then, I've really been concerned about environmental issues. And on a side note, I actually do wonder what will happen with kids these days experiencing COVID-19 and how they may approach the world as a result of their experience. But in my case, it was really that experience which led me to the Club of Rome and then various other responsibilities. And as such, in terms of bridge building or connecting, probably the next big impact in my life was 9/11, 2001. I had just arrived in San Francisco and experienced 9/11 whilst being a student on a Fulbright scholarship in San Francisco. And this Fulbright community is really rich of different kinds of people with different backgrounds and cultures. And I really got intrigued by the fact that more than 100 people from I think we were more than 1,000 signatories, but from cultures other than 100 countries, signed a letter that spoke out against the violent retaliation after 9/11. And this experience, writing an open letter, gathering signatures, etc., really had a profound impact on me as well. And that in some ways led me to being in some kind of bridge building roles of different kinds in different roles and responsibilities.
So as a middleman, as you say yourself, as a broker of sorts and bridge maker, you bridge the gap between various stakeholders, ideas and concepts. And how important do you see building bridges, especially nowadays? What kind of bridges should we build and why should we build them?
Well, as you can see, not only in the US, where it's very prevalent at the moment, given the election campaign and the election results, the presidential elections, also in Germany and other European countries, you can see that we are facing more and more extremes, mainly some people voting right-wing populist parties. And I think it's a bit too easy to say, they're off track, they follow the wrong ideals. I think something in society is fundamentally off. And I think if you talk about different pain points in society, it's really a matter of understanding systemically what has gone wrong. I think you need to, the mainstream parties, they really need to look a little bit closer of what can be done. For myself, I'm not a member of a political party. I believe also in citizen diplomacy, which means individual citizens reaching out to citizens from other countries and doing their part to bridge divides, so to speak. So as part of Arts and Nature Social Club, I'm responsible for organizing programs. I'm the program chair. And
what does the Arts and Nature Social Club actually does, and what is your role in it as the program chair?
Well, I mean, Arts and Nature Social Club is a non-profit organization, and the idea is to address the hearts and minds of people. So by bringing together arts and sciences, with nature as kind of the overall theme. So we host panels of different kinds. We organize innovation hikes with partner organizations and other excursions. And really, we want to effect leaders in different ways so that they can find in their own realm of influence, so to speak, find the leverage points to make a difference when it comes to the idea of a healthy environment. Not least due to Fridays for Future, more and more adults and older people are waking up, reflecting on the status quo and think, we need to do something differently. And we as Arts and Nature Social Club want to contribute to this trend and hopefully convince even more people to effectuate their environment and make a difference, and maybe even learning from their children. And my part really is to help curate the range of programs we're hosting at Arts and Nature Social Club, and work.
What kind of programs do you curate here? What are the specific parameters for you to put a program together?
Well, that's a good question. I do it very intuitively. I mean, I see that, for me, the way I see the world is really a lot of different puzzle pieces, and we need to create linkages between different leverage points or different parts of the system that all by themselves make a difference. And for me, running programs here is an opportunity to facilitate this progress and facilitate these change processes, so to speak. I bring in people who I already know or people who I would like to get to know, and focus on programs that, from my perspective, can help to open people's eyes, widen their understanding about global issues. So my focus really, where my heart is kind of issues of a global nature.
And you mentioned earlier on you have a personal vision of a positive future, which you induce also into the Arts and Nature Social Club. What are these positive futures look like, these achievable utopias?
Well, sometimes in speeches I give, I do focus on these kinds of global scenarios and positive futures. I mean, needless to say, there are enough reasons to be in a bad mood and to focus on negative aspects. We open the news in the morning, or at least I do so sometimes, although maybe I shouldn't do it. And then, the news you see are rather daunting. So not least because, in my belief system at least, the way we look into the world, we create our realities in some ways. So in other words, if we do consciously focus on positive aspects and ways we can create different kinds of futures, I think that's also a way of being generally more constructive in the way we set up our own lives and contribute to a positive outcome.
That's beautifully said, Joerg. Thank you. It's getting me also very much inspired. So, Joerg, you have been in various leadership positions, as we had heard, and you had insights about leadership in academia as head of the Customized Leadership Program at the Cambridge University's Judge Business School. As such, in your eyes, from an academic and practitioner's point of view, what is actually good leadership?
Well, good leadership for me goes hand in hand with authenticity. I think only authentic leaders can be good leaders, and nobody's perfect. But at the same time, if we are true to ourselves, it's much easier to be true to others and to be seen as somebody who can guide other people. So an important element is to delegate, to know the people you work with on a daily basis, and also to know their strengths and then be able to trust. So authenticity and trust are important elements of good leadership.
So is this the definition for you of ethical leadership, having trust and being authentic?
There are certainly important elements, but also there needs to be a good foundation, a good ethical foundation, having the right outlook on the world, to have a vision for a better world and belief in something that may be greater than yourself. If there's one summary maybe of let's say the post-World War II period, then it's maybe self-centeredness, individualism. In some ways, it has driven us to great achievements. We have achieved a lot industrially, we've grown rapidly, but we see that this system or this approach is not serving us any longer. The new age is much more about collaboration, or the new paradigm, the way I see it, is more about what may be considered feminine strengths, nurturing, caring for others, etc. And I think to move to that new kind of paradigm, we do need a new outlook at the world and act differently in concert with other people.
You mentioned these beautiful values, and it's very nice to hear that, especially that you think that we need a feminine outlook on a broader perspective also on everything. And my question to you is, how do you live these proclaimed values in your own life and especially in your work?
Well, sometimes it's easier said than done, to be quite honest. And we're all humans, and we all have our flaws. So how do I live these values? I mean, I do quite a lot of pro bono work. I'm engaged in different organizations such as Arts in Nature Social Club. I'm also a member of the Club of Rome that I used to work for on an operational level. And as such, I've organized conferences, for example, a big water conference that we collaborated on together with the Vatican's Pontifical Council for Culture, which for me was a way to kind of shape the narrative, especially when it comes to water issues. And the conference was to a great extent about creating a new narrative around the theme of water in that case. And also we had quite a few indigenous people that were present at the water conference that shared their story. And I think this kind of storytelling approach, it may go a little bit far saying this is a kind of part of the feminine paradigm or new paradigm. But I think what I learned during the conference myself, that it was a lot about listening more than talking. I think we do need to listen more these days and not only talk, and be actually willing to kind of be silent and be willing to listen to other stories and create a more shared understanding of the issues we are facing as humankind.
You mentioned that we have to listen more to each other in order to collaborate more with each other, in order to create a shared understanding. And actually the backbone of this is trust. And you also mentioned trust and authenticity and how they go hand in hand. And my question to you is, how important do you see trust in relationships, and what do you do to be trustworthy?
What do I do to be trustworthy?
That's a tricky one.
That's a tricky one, yeah. Well, I mean, I try to be authentic. I'm generally known as being a rather direct person, for better or for worse. It comes sometimes with backlashes, especially in cultures that may be less direct, but I try to be polite at the same time so that I'm not appearing as too blunt. But yeah, I mean, I'm trying to be open about my thoughts and feelings as well sometimes, at least in a trusted situation with people I know. And yeah, I mean, trustworthiness, I think, sometimes takes a bit of time. You know, you need to know people. You need to see and watch them. And what I said earlier, your actions speak louder than words. So if people see that you're acting in line with your values, with your words, then people are starting to trust you as well.
Speaking of trust, 2020 has been a challenging year for all of us, especially concerning the erosion of trust. We don't have trust in our governments anymore, in the economical system, in the medical system, in the insurance system, and even in our own society. And as of such, a lot of people are diving into depression, anxiety with record levels. And my question to you is, how do you handle these uncertain times, this pressure? What do you do for self-care in order not to delve into anxiety?
Well, for the first time, I joined a Vipassana meditation retreat during the summer, and that for me was eye-opening. I had tried other meditation techniques, but
so proud of you.
I'm rather an impatient person, to be honest. So for me, kind of sitting still is not an easy one. But for some reason, Vipassana.
What is Vipassana? Perhaps some of our
well, for Vipassana is basically a 10 days silent meditation retreat. There are different durations, but the minimum you can do is 10 days. So you basically sit still in more or less the same position over a period of 10 days. And it's not easy, and there are times when you'd like to get up and run away, but that bad sometimes. All kinds of thoughts come to mind, but if you stick with it, then the reward is that you have these moments when you're actually still inside and when you can focus in a better way. And I'm trying to stick with this practice to do it every day at least once. You're supposed to do it twice, an hour in the morning, an hour at night, which given our lives, it's not always so easy, but an hour usually in the morning I usually do. And otherwise, I do sports. I go running and biking. Those are my two main activities. And Berlin is a bit flat, so for hiking I need mountains. So it gets a bit boring from time to time.
Thank you, Joerg. This is very insightful. And before we end, I would like to thank you and recap what we've learned from you today. So we've learned that having a positive vision for the future is very important, especially in dark times, and shaping them with utopian ideas in order to move forward. It's also important to embed this vision into projects. In your case, you curate eye-opening programs and you bridge gaps between various stakeholders and themes. We also learned that building bridges is the way in order to find solutions for complex problems in the 21st century by collaborating together. We learned about the importance of authenticity and especially trust in order to align words and actions. And to finish our session, I would like to mention the famous citation of the Temple of Apollo, "Know thyself." And with regards to that, my question is to you, what is your life advice to know thyself?
Well, to keep trying and keep failing. As I said a couple of times, nobody's perfect, and only by trial and error you can learn. And I've certainly made my own mistakes and try to learn from them and be a better person as a result. So that's in a nutshell what I believe people should do as well.
Thank you, Joerg, for this insightful interview today. I know you have a long night ahead of you. You will host a salon on well-being for the Arts and Nature Social Club here in the Hotel de Rome during these COVID times. Your special guests tonight will be transformational researcher Professor Maya Göppe and the former Minister of Education, Dr. Lorenzo Fioramonti. I wish you good luck for the session. Thank you for being with us at Avantgardist Leadership, and see you next time.